This is, I said last year, did this talk last year, but this is like the continuing saga. So I kind of, I want to talk about the cautionary tale, which is, I think, a real danger, misinformation that is out there right now, and what it's actually climbing to. What is our response, and what are our ways forward? How we can do this? And I want to do a recap very quickly on last year. Can I just ask, was anyone here last year? Has anyone heard my talk from last year? All right, no, that's great. Thank you. I'll do a real quick one. But, just to say, I'm reading from notes. I'm recovering from a concussion, so occasionally words fall out my mouth. So do excuse me doing from a book. And if I can't find a word, I'm very happy to take words from, shout out what you think I'm going to say, and I'll just choose one, and that'd be great. Thank you. So very quickly about myself. Before I was a councillor, so for 2 years now, I've been an activist for 30 years, social, ecological, housing co-ops, all those kind of things. And I thought being a councillor would be kind of like a nice break. So my first year, I was actually the deputy mayor. And then for some strange reason, I became the mayor and the mayor of Glastonbury, which was fantastic. And I should say Glastonbury is a majority Green council. And it was like the first time a majority Green council. It's been Tories all the way. Most people think Glastonbury has always kind of had a council of elder wizards and things, but it hasn't. And this is quite true of lots of little towns. But anyway, right, cracking in. So I'll do a very quick recap. So, and just to say that Glastonbury town, this is no reflection on the people of Glastonbury or, or their beliefs. And I'm certainly not here to try and condemn or try and disbelieve any conspiracy theories. There's actually something worse and darker underneath, I think. So Glastonbury is a freedom-loving, free-thinking, alternative healing community. They're pilgrims, seekers, truthers, new agers, alternatives. I myself went to school there. My mum's a hippie. These are my community, which is why it really kind of pegged me. That I went away for a while and I came back about 8 years to see what was happening. So I'll tell you, this is a bit of a recap. So a month before I became the mayor, about 100 of other freedom-loving free thinkers attended a council meeting. So we have everyone can do a 3-minute talk. But we weren't used to, 100 people turning up. Not everyone could get in, and they were quite agitated, quite angry. And their spokesperson wanted to challenge our secret plan for a 15-minute city. So do people know what 15-minute cities are? Wonderful. So there was one, so Oxford. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so Oxford. So that would have been a year before, so 3 years ago, Oxford, I think, they were bringing a 50-minute city. 50-minute cities are basically like priority pedestrian places in cities with the idea that you can walk and your children can play, and it's a place that has low emissions, you can breathe the air. I think London has just proven something like a 40% drop in just the 2 years. From its 50, well, they're not 50, they're like ULEZ, all these things that there has been that huge outcry, freedom to drive and all this. Anyway, so that's 15-minute city. So, Oxford, there was a rally against it. I think it was a couple thousand people there, headed up, I'll go into it a bit more later, but it's headed up by people like Liam Fox, who has kind of outed himself as being an incredibly racist, far-right. Lawrence Fox, what did I say, Liam? Thank you for that call out. Genius. Liam Fox. Thank you, Lawrence Fox. Right. So the mayor at the time, because I was the deputy, the mayor at the time quite rightly pointed out that there is no plan for a 15-minute city in Glastonbury, and in actual fact, you can walk across Glastonbury in 15 minutes. And the agenda, though, and this is what I'm talking about, the agenda then talks. So there was a spokesperson who's quite out in their theories of what's going on in the world. A lot of this does obviously come from anti-vax, the lockdown, all those, the information that came out around then. So the agenda soon turned to our endemocratic declaring of a climate emergency, which we had done maybe a year or so previous, and that they wanted to challenge it because there is no such thing as climate change and everything comes out of it. So they've asked us for a debate to tackle it, to, bring in people, to scientists and stuff, to properly nail this down. So I'll just tell you, two things happened after that. So the spokesperson, obviously it was being videoed. We videoed it ourselves. We always video the town council meetings, but they were there, with their phones. And it soon went out on their channels and on YouTube that the people stopped the 15-minute city in Glastonbury. So that was what came out of that. We were platformed, we were used, and this was straight after. And the debate did happen. They wanted to include us. We kind of went, look, it's a one-sided thing. There is no debate. I came and I did talk, because I was the mayor by then, and I talked about what we were doing and what we were doing to decarbonise the council and its buildings, and that there were no, huge almighty plans to stop people driving or, do it, because we just don't have the powers to do that. And it was filmed by UK Column. Do people know who UK Column are? So they are they're pretty much, they platform the far right speakers, very much the kind of information that goes out there, which is, it can be racial related, it can be hatred, a lot of anti-science, a lot of anti-vaxxers. So, and I just want to say, I've got nothing against, people with anti-vax, COVID, anything like that. It was a mess. And this is part of it, because we had a perfect bed, for all of this to happen. Even climate change deniers, I'm not here to try and prove anything. And also say, one of my great friends in Glastonbury doesn't believe in dinosaurs. And we're fine with that. We just don't talk about dinosaurs, and that's really fine. And they're really intelligent, but this is, totally their thing. So, where are we? So yes, UK Column, and it ended with the spokesperson. So there was basically, it was a panel. They introduced a panel, and they were all mostly climate change deniers, and giving their, and right at the end, the same spokesperson from the beginning, she stood up, and it was great hubbub, great hurrah, and she announced that they had challenged the council for its climate emergency, because they've proved that climate change doesn't exist, because they've had a panel and everything, and your town can do the same. Yeah, so this was last year, and this is basically, that's in a nutshell what I was talking about last year. Lots has happened since then. So this is now my year as mayor, which was fantastic. I just want to say I enjoyed every moment of it. The parade, the dragons, everything. It was wonderful, and I really threw myself into it. And we achieved lots as well. We got an adaptation plan. Obviously, we didn't pull back on our climate emergency. And a resilience as well to do with people, climate adaptation plan to do with the land itself, and we just got on with it. So yeah, these are going out. They basically platformed Glastonbury, and we knew they were going to do that. I knew they were going to do that. I knew exactly that's where this was heading. They'd been kind of whipped up into a frenzy, and the person to this day still believes that we were going to bring in a 15-minute city. And I'll just, 2 points worth noticing. Her evidence for there being a 15-minute city and how people were 15, not 50, thank you very much though. 15-minute city was that we during lockdown, we were offered a grant for trees to plant trees in a high street trees. Obviously, because of lockdown, we couldn't actually go out there and do it, and all the machinery and stuff. So they found these metal containers, which in itself, loads of people were like for or against. But anyway, these metal containers, and they look just like the ones that they used in Oxford to put on the streets, tree planters. They're used for traffic calming and priority pedestrian areas. And that was pretty much the proof that was the case. Obviously, these things don't budge. They weigh like 2 tons. They're there. They're not going anywhere. And the other one was, half the audience that came to the debate in the town hall were not Glastonbury people. A lot of them were, because I spoke to them afterwards, after about 3 double gin and tonics, we kind of had a bit of a lot of them from Oxford, and a lot of them were from lots of different campaigns, because what happened during lockdown, a lot of people were kind of brought together with so many varying of of campaigns of things they were against, and everything from, freedom of speech, Freeman, all these things. People came together, and it was great at galvanizing people because, yes, it was really disturbing time. It was a time of disinformation. It was a time of where, top-down government was lying. So what do people believe? So yeah, last year it was about misinformation. I want to now, so bringing us up to today, I can talk in questions a little bit more about what happened during my year because it was quite interesting. There was a lot of pushback, but I'm really proud of actually my party, if you like, the Green councillors, because they drew a line. They actually did draw a line. They saw about where things were going, and they stood firm, which was great. So does anyone know about the Light newspaper? Because that's kind of how we continued. Yep. Does anybody not know what the Light newspaper is? Okay, thank you. So the Light newspaper is a free newspaper. It's UK-wide. It's got about 100,000 distribution. It's, hang on. So yes, it covers lots of articles. It says that it's not unedited, but it's not, anyone can submit, which actually is not. There is an agenda. So the Light newspaper is something that's given out in our town, and a lot of the same people, this is their information, this is their grouping, there's people coming together, which is fabulous, but it's what's being fed to them. So yes, this is, I'll talk about more of this later, but this is Community Solidarity Stroud. And they became our kind of big brothers in a nice way, helping us kind of navigate this because they had already formed a group which was looking into the Light newspaper. So the Light newspaper basically promotes the far right, constant denial of climate change, the Light sending women back to the Dark Ages, how the Light promotes transphobia and homophobia, and lots of other kind of conspiratorial stuff, which is kind of baseless. A lot of it also has real kind of nods to, in America, with the evangelical kind of Christian virtues, which is also kind of coming in on the right. I'm going to hand out some of these at the end if you want to see it, but this is basically, they've got links to all the proof and all the kind of articles that come out. Just to say also the Light it has its latest writer, they've invited on, is a, where is he? Their latest writer. It's not David Icke. Right, John Harmer. He's been basically appointed as a regular contributor. He's a Holocaust denier. So a lot of it's kind of anti-Zion, Holocaust denial, a lot of Muslim hating, a lot of blaming, a lot of segregation, a lot of divide. A lot of, in these times of information wars, we are seeing people being polarized. They're looking for patterns. They're looking for answers. This is kind of, and I said last year that what happens usually in these times of unrest is people look for strength. They look for charismatic, leaders that have a thing to do, and they bolster together. And this is what's happening. Kind of jumping ahead of myself, but Stockport, basically, what we're seeing now, Stockport, Southport. Thank you, putting that right. No, well, actually, I mean, yes, Stockport, yeah. Southport, thank you, Southport. There you go, it's written down. There's also other places kicking off at the moment. Some people have actually left this gathering to basically try and do anti-racist march. Anyway, I'm jumping ahead of myself. So yes, so a person came to speak at the town hall and talking about their concerns about the Light newspaper. And because somebody had come in, he said, right, we will look into this. A committee was formed. A committee was formed from some residents, a couple of councillors, and also Glastonbury Independent Alliance as well, who promote diversity in our town and also safe spaces. And we realised actually there was a lot of people being silenced because of a lot of the hate speech that was coming out. So the light normalizes hate speech and all the things that it does promote. So we set up our own conference, and it was done incredibly respectfully, incredibly engagingly. We didn't want to confront. We realized actually a lot of it is actually about information, and this is where a lot of things are not coming in. They've been given one point of view. So we called it Blinded by the Light ? It was challenging the cosmic right, gender diversity, science denial. It was with open-hearted, compassionate speakers talking about the disinformation warfare that's going on at the moment. And also how to engage with your community. So the speakers that came from Stroud, from this group, because that's what they'd been doing for the last 2 years beforehand. And also the whole solidarity thing. So there's, solidarity now Totnes. It's like the Southwest. We're kind of coming together because we're kind of feeling that we're being hoodwinked, really. And that our people, if you like, our community, our freedom-loving, healthy, health-minded community are actually being dragged into this. So talked about how to engage with community with an understanding of its wider context. Like freedom of speech goes both ways. There was a huge call out that we were trying to ban the newspaper. And it's like, well, we don't actually have the powers. Nobody really has the powers to ban it. But what we can do, and what Community Solidarity, Stroud did, is they stand next to the vendors. So we have every Tuesday, they are giving out these papers. And they have become a little bit of the kind of baton that they have to kind of prove that, this is their side, and it's the sides that are being created, which is awful, because, we've now become, it's like the world turned upside down. Now we've become the bad guys. How to understand its wider context. And there's no intention to ban the newspaper. Unfortunately, after the conference, which went really well, which was really well attended and had some really good, intelligent conversation with people, at the end, the rumor went out that we were going to aggressively stop them handing out the light. And this kind of came up in a time, so they had like a couple of heavies, and next time they were giving the light, obviously that wasn't the case. What we do sometimes is like what they do in Stroud, which is hand out the kind of, this is what you're reading, these are the people that are writing it, this is where it's going. Just education. So I'm going to talk a little bit about now kind of what's going on the ground right now. So putting it in a wider context, a kind of world, or, England, where it's going right now. So we live in an era of information manipulation, network tribalism. We have our very own trusted. It's really difficult to argue with somebody when you don't even agree on the reference, the scientists, your news outlet, your YouTube your channel, or your Facebook meme, So, digital tribal networks. So it's like a cul-de-sac that just is absorbing all the oxygen. I just want to mention 3 names. I mean, Tommy Robinson, Katie Hopkins, and Lawrence Fox are all 3 very much pushers of this, and who are being, they are the face of what's going on. A lot of the, there's like gatherings, I think there's 4 this year, where 3 of them are quite prominent in. Last time this happened, it's history of manipulation, the right wing, where does the blame lie? And it's the authority, so it's unhinging things. Steve Bannon as well in America. I mean, he headed up, and there was a great big PR company. A lot of stuff came out with Cambridge Analytica, and it won the Trump election. Honestly posting him as a messiah. That's how it went. That's how powerful these things are, and who is behind it, and who is behind the manipulation. It's ultra polarized, and it's scary manipulation. I just want to talk about the people. So what do we want? We want simple, neat answers. We look for patterns. profundity. Oh, thank you, my lovely. I think it's called profundity. It's a great word. Profundity is where we look for patterns. And these are people, we're all quite emotional beings. We're here because we want another world. We know another world is possible. I believe that there are people being swept up in this misinformation narrative because they are looking, they want simple, neat answers, good and evil. And it plays out our kind of primitive side because it's a trauma response. A lot of people feel like they've traded their freedom for security. So there's a global spin, and it reveals a sophisticated techniques deployed globally by conservative forces, and that's little c as well as big C, to try and change the way the public and the political think about the environment or about anything that doesn't serve their cause. So these can be fuel lobbies, they can be, big money, basically, and the elites. So the big corporations are using influence to reshape public opinion and downplay the environmental crisis or whatever's going on at the moment, and allow people their freedoms, freedom to drive, freedom to fly, and try and tell you that we're trying to take their freedoms away. So yeah, it kind of ends in what's going on at the moment with the race wars, and it's kind of what we said last year where it was going, and now we have the Deform Party. There are people that are genuinely scared and genuinely confused and want something to happen, and this is where they're going with it. So what do we do about it? So what we're trying to do about it in our town and in our conversations in this field even, there was a wonderful workshop earlier in campaigns. So I'm still part of the environmental movement and activism. And it's like this, we used to have our own publications. We used to have our own news. There was a lot of burnout. So there's a lot of things. It's like having the rug taken from under us. So how do we do it in our communities? Seeking common ground. So that kind of really worked. Because at the moment, there's a kind of nationalistic, British identity that's, being challenged. And we have the rise of the far right again, using those lovely old tropes of, England for English people. So yeah, elders, mediating the unknown was quite a good phrase, I remember, which was, it's not about left or right. It's not about who's right or wrong. It's about mediation between the two and actually bringing things back into the light, to use a phrase. Responding, not reacting. A lot of us are so entrenched, we've been doing it so long, and that becomes, and it's almost like that's on purpose, that we're now infighting and being divided. And education. Education to our communities on class, on politics, on poverty, on where this is coming from, because it's also a little bit of a class war, and just widening the debate and mostly empathy, having empathy. And that doesn't mean not fighting. I am very happy to go out there and have done, and I've stood up a line against fascists and I have pushed that line back, and it's great, but we've got to do it on all different. Also, I don't think my back could take it anymore. But yeah, we've got to take it on all fronts. I just want to finish with a poem. No, it's not a poem, so I'm not finishing with a poem. Finish with a philosopher, Hannah Arendt. Sorry if I've pronounced that wrong. But she was born in 1906. She's a historian and seen as the greatest philosopher of the 20th century. So yeah, this is like First and Second World War, and she was part Jewish as well. So this constant lying is not aimed at making people believe a lie, but at ensuring that no one believes anything anymore. And then I'm cutting to the bottom, which is, with such people, you can do whatever you want. So I'm going to end it there. Thank you. I'd love questions. Thank you.
questions, ideally from a woman first, and we'll try and do man, woman, man, woman, woman, man. I mean,
do we have any idea who's funding the light?
Oh, who's funding the light? Yes, well, it comes on advertising. There are many people that have looked into it, and I will hand round these leaflets because they are one of the most people on the forefront doing that information. But if you look at the adverts, there's a lot of kind of there's a bit cryptocurrency in there, but there are a lot of dodgy. There's the American like preppers, grab your guns. You look at the adverts and you can see. But there's a lot of money that goes into it. It's run by, what's his name, Nesbitt. Darren Nesbitt. Oh, not his real name. Okay, but yes, this guy that platformed it.
I came to this talk late. I was meant to come earlier, so I've missed a lot of it. Apologies for that. I don't think I'm going to be the only anarchist in the room.
No, you're not.
But what I wanted to ask you is, as a councillor, as somebody on the front line of politics, what can we do to help you fight for the right cause?
That's a lovely question. Thank you. I identify as an anarchist myself, 30 years, and that's where I got my politics and my class analysis and everything. So on the ground, it's whatever town you come from. If there is this bubbling, it's about having a counter narrative, letting, so I read out things like seeking common ground. There are things, a lot of them are earth loving people, trees, try and get that, try and get the conversations. So because what happened was it was quite funny. I had petitions out against me. I was heckled everywhere. I was. It wasn't really a death threat, but the paper printed it as that because they were the only voices being heard. But little by little, people going, actually, no, this is really great because I actually feel the same, and I feel intimidated by what is written in the light, and I feel scared and I can't speak up because they don't have a platform. So it's giving people a platform, giving an ulterior narrative. That's in your local community, widening the debate if you like. But also, if you're on the streets, there are many people standing up and going to the demos because there are race demos, there are anti-Muslim demos all this weekend, and they will be carrying out. This has happened before, by the way. I don't want to scaremonger anyone. This has happened when I think a soldier was killed, and it whipped up. But we are, it gives them oxygen. So let's just fill it with ours as well, compassionately, but strongly. Thank you.
Hi, Indra. It's just more of a statement just to say I fortunately have just read Doppelganger, Naomi Klein's book, and
book.
George Monbiot's book, The Invisible Doctrine, both of which cover these things extremely eloquently. And
they were my Bibles.
Okay, and I had a short engagement online with a person who was shouting at me in a lot of capitals and declared that those two people, Naomi Klein and George Monbiot, were the two most hateful people on the planet, which I thought was quite rich. Anyway, recommending the books, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. No, I totally recommend them. In fact, the Doppelganger was what our group read. It was like our book club before we started, and it was very much about this whole thing turning on its head because, like the philosopher said, it's not about what is right and what is wrong. It's the fact that we're fighting.
Yeah, just that when you say that, well, it's just that they say the same thing. They say that we're the ones who are deluded. They say that we're the ones who are being manipulated by the rich people like Bill Gates and people like that. So it's like,
yes.
What do you say to that?
That's interesting. So Naomi Klein goes on and she talks about that as well in Doppelganger, and there's very much like using our words, and it's like, I don't know, I feel robbed sometimes when I hear them coming out with the same words. I don't know, freedom of speech or critical thinking, and the elites and all this, and it's like, oh my gosh, we've been completely corrupted and co-opted. So no, it's like I say, with those you can't, because we can't even agree on a basis of what scientists we believe. We said years ago, that the scientists that were coming out with the data, with the were, you know, in science, say in chemical companies, were paid for by the chemical companies. That's something we've been saying for years and proven for years. So it's an argument that has been used now against us. So it's kind of like, I'm almost saying, stay away from those kind of arguments you can't win because there's not even the basis for it. And it is very much about kind of seeking the common ground, and also just showing people where it's going. So a close family member is very much embroiled in this for all the reasons that I've mentioned, and they're quite a vulnerable person. And they have trusted sources and they've done the research. And I just said, did you read to the very bottom, where it starts going on about the Jews? You know, did you read to the bottom? Did you take everything to the nth degree? Showing people the trajectory of hate speech. You know, if you are an open-hearted, freedom-loving, you know, world, earth-loving person, you know, the diversity, it's bringing back diversity. Muslims are not the problem. I'm going to bring up this book as well now. Where is it? Oh, it's in my hand. So this is a fantastic little pamphlet. It's just been put together. This is Abby. She's in the library bus. She's put this together, and this is on migration and small boats, and actually kind of like, this is actually what happened, you know? And it kind of combats the narrative that we're being taken over and there's a war being waged. There is a lot of very dangerous stories out there that are being told that, you know, it's like an entryism. You know, you don't like COVID, you don't like the vax, here, have this. It's a gateway drug. And that's kind of where it is heading. So it's to kind of bring it back and say, look, can you just see where this is going? Yeah, and don't do the detail. Thank you.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm Alex. I live just down the road from Indra in the little village of Stoke St Gregory. And even in our tiny little village, at the village pub, little stacks of the light mysteriously appear on tables. And it's all very anonymous. You don't very often get to talk to an actual person. They just appear.
Yeah.
And I mean, I found the last few years really disconcerting as more and more bizarre confusions around truth and fiction start circulating. And I think the most helpful way I've found of understanding it is as the idea of an internal conflict within the elite. That, you know, when I was in my 20s and 30s, the elite was very united, you know, business owners, business managers, wealthy people. They had a very common narrative. And more recently, there is this fissure opening up between people engaged in production and management on the one hand, and people involved in more passive investment, the rentier economy, if you like. And gradually this fissure's opened up in the elite. And to some extent, I think we might have to take a bit of credit for that. Because one part of the elite is saying, you know what, we are going to have to regulate our activities. We are going to have to acknowledge these arguments that are being made about sustainability. And we are going to have to discipline ourselves and follow some rules. And the other part of the elite saying, hell no. And it's a bit remote. The foot soldiers, the people who are distributing the light, the people who are getting caught up in anti-vax theories, are absolutely not part of the elite themselves.
No.
But there is money pouring in from this
Yes.
one side of the elite as a way of attacking the other side of the elite. And that is absolutely inflaming the situation. So I think I find that a useful way of understanding the bizarre situation that we're in.
That's really interesting. Thank you. That kind of... So there is, you know, who benefits? Who really benefits from this? And it's not just, you know, there was money pouring in from Russia. Loves destabilizing, you know, countries, a very orthodox country. From America, another kind of religious... another, you know, very religious Christian. It's becoming more so. I heard the scariest, almost funny fact the other day that the kind of great Orthodox, real Christians are not even using Jesus anymore because he was too flaky. He was just not Christian enough. They're starting to rewrite the Bible. So I mean, that is weird and also true. But yes, hello, Abby.
Yeah, John the Baptist said, if you have 2 coats, give one away. So, they were pretty communist of their time.
Yeah, that's it. Jesus, too communist. That was right.
I just wanted to say a bit about common ground, because I've been thinking about how do we... The people that I know that are really in the light, they're worried, they're scared. How do you address their fears? How do you get people to punch up rather than kick down? Ultimately, most people want clean water. Most people want clean air. Most people are finding it hard to afford rent, to be able to buy a house, to do the things that maybe their parents could do a bit easier. So really, I think a good area to bring people together is talking about where the pinch points are, where certain people are getting richer and richer and most of us are getting poorer, and then refocus on a common enemy. Don't use words like anarchism. Don't use words like socialism. Just talk about people's life experience, and I think that will bring most of us together again.
Brilliant. Thank you, Abby. Can I just do a plug? That's Abby who wrote this.
Hi, I'm Stu. A question of, have you come across ex-light readers who have come out of that, and what helped them to come out of that?
Brilliant, thank you. There is actually, I think The Guardian covered it. The hateful baby. The Guardian covered it. I think there was somebody who actually did do a whole kind of article and how much she went down what she called the rabbit hole, and how much she needed people, and how I think how lonely and isolated they were at lockdown, and just to find their people, all this. So it was about realizing that actually it was the emotional need that they wanted, this kind of like people that backed up their own, and they were very much in this as we said earlier, in this kind of cul-de-sac together. So it was so what I kind of took from that is like reach out to people, talk to people. I mean, there's a wonderful lovely elder in our town who's now becoming Holocaust denial. There's all these little things that are, and it's just noticing flags, and just if you do notice people like that, just gently draw them out again and just remind them. And that's it. So it's just the context, the talking. We're so used to like memes and there's nothing like a kind of angry faceless meme to get angry about, and I'm sure most of us have done it, but it's we've become that. So talk to people. And that's kind of what helped them, what helped this person, is to actually reach out and do face-to-face. I think that's what came out of our conference as well, was engage with people. I think we're all still kind of stepping out of this whole lockdown blinky thing. And yeah, just compassion and diversity and history. History's good. Thank you.
Hello, Tiana.
Hello, Tiana.
Hello, Indra. As an active public, you were in the public eye and you were kind of active working against this. Did you ever find yourself the star of your own conspiracy theory?
Oh, you mean conspiracy against me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was funny. One day I was an activist climbing trees and everybody loved me. The next day I became a councillor and I was part of the elite, and that was the plan all along. Yeah, to engage people. So yes, funnily enough, and that has been woven in. Lots of people luckily knew me when I was little, but I don't think it doesn't come into it as long as it fulfills their narrative. But yes, I was a puppet of that, and it was a plan all along, which is a very long game. Deep cover. I mean, I must be. My money must be in offshore accounts somewhere.
Clacton Community Transition here. The common ground thing is amazing, and it has opened up a lot of argument stroke debate, saying some common ground. But the amount of work that's, say, going into solar panels and various other things, there almost needs to be like a diplomatic corps fleshing out what the real common ground is. And I would argue it's true civil liberties, civil rights, the human values that are at the core of the Green Gathering are actually at the core of, dare I say it, the old noble side of the right of the political spectrum. I come from the left, so yeah.
Must have been hard to say.
It's painful.
Well done.
I'm grimacing. But the relationship with the land and freedom and all these kind of things, we can all agree on that. We don't need scientists to tell us that. We can actually all agree on that.
Mm-hmm.
So the sticking points that I've found is when it comes to collective action. Any kind of cooperation is like seen as, well, that's socialism or that's, communism.
So true.
And yet they're trying to get together to spread the light or whatever kind of theories it is. So I think by focusing on the human side, the heart side, all those values, and then the implications of those values through the environment and how we relate to each other, there is common ground there, especially when a lot of my friends, some of them belong to Reform. And when you talk about corporations, they're spitting. They're against the corporations. So there's some common ground there as well. So I think it's easy for us to dismiss a lot on the other side, because I slip into polarised thinking myself. But when I hear what they actually are fearful about, because it comes from fear, it's these common human values of freedom and being self-reliant, self-sufficiency. That's really big on the right. So there's some common ground there.
Let him speak. Please don't heckle.
That they're looking for scapegoats. They're looking for simple answers.
Yeah.
I have a lot of arguments about that, and you're totally right. And like you say, that's where it's going. That's the end of the chain of logic. It's always the final solution.
Yeah, final solution. Yeah.
But I agree with what you say. There's a battle between different factions in the elite, and they're trying to get the working classes on their side. Yeah, so they do that by offering a scapegoat, and before you know it, you've got an army willing to go over the trenches for you. Yeah.
Very good point. Very good point. Yeah, I won't go too much into. Just to say that where people that read the Light say, "Oh yeah, but I don't agree with everything," but I still read it. But you're still buying into that. You're still supporting that. So yes, there is common ground. There's also where we can't, bring in and go, it's like, well, we agree with that, so come in with your values. But yes, there is common ground, which is literally what that means, come in with everything. Thank you.
My name's Sam. Indra, firstly, thank you for stepping up and being a mayor, as an anarchist, as a woman, as all the things you are. Thank you. It must have been really hard, and I'm so proud of you, and I'm so inspired by you, and I'm sure there are many people out there that also are inspired by that. So I just want to say that. And then the second thing is, listening to what you said, what I heard was active listening. We've lost that, and it's really needed to find that common ground. And so I'm wondering if people's assemblies in communities would help solve that.
That's a wonderful way. So I introduced people's assemblies into my town, and they went really well. We did a couple, and they were fabulous. But then there was a pushback that they were a communist idea. But yeah, absolutely. No, people's assemblies and versions thereof. Absolutely. And I did actually manage to do the last one I did, which was part of a town assemble. And there were people there that were taking part, that were people who even distribute the Light. And I don't want to demonize people that read the Light or take the Light. This isn't what that's about. But yes, people's assemblies is a fabulous way of going forward. Can I just say, I thought being a mayor would be a really easy gig. It was actually sort of part of my I'm not resigning. I'm on holiday, but yeah, obviously just found a new front line. But yeah, as I said, I'm proud of how we dealt with it. I really love people's assemblies because they do actually allow the smaller voices, everyone's voice, and that's kind of what this is going against, is because you just, what I got for a year was a wall of other voices, of loud voices, and so trying to bring in the quiet ones, it was phenomenal. If there are no other, can I finish with Bertrand Russell? Okay, cool. Bertrand Russell. So, first step in fascist movement is the combination under an energetic leader of men with the leisure and brutality and stupidity. Sorry, I said that wrong. A leader of men with more leisure than usual and brutality and stupidity. Next step is to fascinate fools and muzzle the intelligent by emotional excitement and terrorism. So I just want to say good luck to everyone who's out there facing that front line. Thank you. Thank you for your wonderful questions and for letting me speak. This is my therapy. Thank you. Thank you.